Picture this. A man wakes up in a body that already knows how to die. Not metaphorically. Literally. Every nightmare he's ever had is actually a memory. Every stranger who scared him as a kid was him, in a different skin, a different century, dying the exact same way. That's the situation Jade Herrera is standing in by season 4 of From. And here's the part that should stop you cold. It's not the monsters killing him. It never was. Every single time, across every single life, it's the neighbors. So today we're doing something a little different. We're not just recapping what happened to Jade, we're building the case that Jade Herrera might be the most quietly tragic character on television right now, and that the actual horror of From was never the creatures in the woods. It was the math. A brilliant, isolated man keeps discovering the truth, and the town keeps killing him for it. 4 times, maybe more. Let's get into it. When we first meet Jade, the show wants you to hate him a little. And honestly, fair. He rolls into town the same day as the Matthews family, fresh off selling his software company, drunk, high, riding in a car with his best friend Toby after a bender that was supposed to end in Miami. It ends somewhere much worse. He treats the crash, the town, the whole nightmare like an escape room built by amateurs. He's cracking jokes while the sheriff, Boyd, is literally trying to save lives around him. This isn't a guy who's scared. This is a guy who thinks he's smarter than the situation. And for the first stretch of season 1, the show lets you believe that's exactly who he is. The rich tech bro who's going to get humbled, or worse, killed off early to prove the stakes are real. Except the show does something smarter. It doesn't break him with a monster, it breaks him with grief. Deputy Kenny walks him out to where Toby's body is laid out, and the moment Jade actually sees what happened to his friend, all that bravado just evaporates. He says the only 2 things he ever loved in this world are gone, and he just wants to see them again. That line matters more than it seems like it should, and we'll circle back to exactly why in about 10 minutes. Hold on to it. For now, just notice this. Jade isn't a skeptic because he's cold. He's a skeptic because every time he's let himself believe in something, it's cost him. That's not arrogance, that's armor. And armor in this show always eventually comes off. Here's where From starts playing a longer game than most horror shows even attempt. Almost immediately, Jade starts seeing things. A bloodied man crushed under a boulder, a shape carved into stone above him. He becomes obsessed with a symbol he can't explain, doodling it constantly, on napkins, in the diner, anywhere there's paper. To everyone around him, it looks like a man cracking under pressure. Deputy Kenny writes it off. Jade himself gets defensive about it, snapping that he'd rather draw on paper than start drawing on walls. But this is where the show earns its reputation for patience, because that symbol isn't random. It turns up in an old journal belonging to a man named Christopher, decades before Jade ever set foot in this town. Same drawing, same obsession. And tucked into that journal is a photograph. Christopher holding that exact book with a young boy named Victor visible in the background. To get anything else out of Victor, who's a resident of Colony House and doesn't respond well to being interrogated, Jade has to actually slow down. He picks up a violin that belonged to Victor's family and plays it. Badly, dutifully, just to earn a conversation. It's the first time we see this man do something for someone else without an immediate return on investment. What he learns is unsettling. Christopher used to be well liked in this town. Funny, warm even. Then he started seeing the symbol, and he changed, grew cold, grew obsessed, and it ended in tragedy for nearly everyone around him. Jade has just been handed a preview of his own future, and he doesn't even know it yet. Here's the thing about slow burn character work. It rarely gets credit while it's happening. It only pays off in hindsight. So let's name the actual bricks the show lays down across the next couple of seasons, because none of them look important in the moment. Jade partners with Jim on getting a radio working, despite the 2 of them barely tolerating each other. He fixes the town still, trading labor for information, instead of just demanding it. He starts comparing notes with Tabitha, another resident haunted by visions, and realizes their nightmares are connected. His symbol keeps showing up in the tunnels where she's seen missing children. None of this is dramatic. That's the point. This is a man who arrived with exactly 1 friend in the world, and by increments, without really agreeing to it, becoming part of a household, a community, a functioning unit of people who rely on each other. Meanwhile, the visions keep escalating. He's hallucinating the symbol in blood. He's throwing darts at his own drawings at night like he's trying to physically destroy the thing haunting him. And then, at the end of season 2, he finally gets a location. Deep underground, he finds a chamber ringed with stone slabs, and looking up, he sees the symbol isn't just an image in his head. It's carved into the roots of a tree. growing directly above a tomb. Which brings us to the single best piece of world building this show has done, and it recontextualizes everything Jade's been going through. Season 3 finally answers the question that's been sitting underneath the whole show. What is that symbol? The reveal is quiet, almost gentle compared to everything else in this series. The children buried in that chamber were murdered by people they trusted. But before they died, someone who loved them told them a story that gave them hope. And that hope is what grew into the shape carved above their grave. Sit with that for a second. The image that's been terrorizing Jade since episode 3 of season 1, the thing that broke Christopher decades earlier, was never a curse symbol or a warning. It was hope, fossilized, the last thing 7 murdered children managed to leave behind. And that reframes Jade's entire approach up to this point. He'd been attacking this mystery like it was a technical problem. Gather data, find the pattern, solve it from the outside, the exact same instincts that made him a fortune in the tech world. But that method was never going to work here, because the symbol was never a puzzle. It was a memory, and memories don't get cracked. They get remembered together, which is not something you can do alone with a notebook and a superiority complex. Remember that violin from earlier? The one Jade played as a transaction, a bribe, a means to an end? It comes back in the season 3 finale, and this time it's not currency. Jade and Tabitha figure out that a series of numbers connected to a bottle tree correspond to musical notes. And crucially, nobody figures this out alone. It takes multiple people comparing notes to get there. Jade takes that same violin out to the bottle tree and plays it, and the children respond. One of them says a single word that's been echoing through the whole show, and Tabitha finally understands what it means. Remember. And then they do. The memories come flooding back for both of them. Jade was Christopher. Tabitha was a woman named Miranda. And before either of those lives, they were 2 parents in the original settlement. Parents whose own daughter was one of the children taken. The line about the dead traveling with you when you go, planted way back in season 1 as a small kindness between strangers, turns out to be the most literal description of what's happening to this man that anyone's ever given him. He's been carrying every version of himself the entire time, whether he remembered packing that baggage or not. Same violin, completely different man holding it. That's the whole arc in one object. Season 4 is where the show stops being subtle about the stakes. Jade takes mushrooms specifically hoping to unlock more memories, and it works. Maybe too well. He's shown 4 figures from his visions gathered together, and he realizes every single one of them is him. The Civil War soldier. The man crushed by the boulder. The man holding a bloodied skull. Every recurring nightmare across 4 seasons was a photograph of his own death, over and over. And here's the detail that changes how you watch the entire series in retrospect. It was never the creatures that got him. In every single cycle, once Jade figures out the truth about who he is, the town turns on him. They panic, they blame him, and they kill him. Which means the monsters in this show have arguably never had to do the hard work themselves. They just wait for fear to do it for them. That's a genuinely disturbing structural idea for a horror series to commit to. That the real threat was community collapse, not the thing lurking outside the tree line. And if you think about why every version of Jade ends up alone at the moment he needs people most, there's an uncomfortable logic to it. The kind of mind that can piece together centuries of buried trauma has to be relentless, obsessive, and a little detached to begin with. Those are exactly the traits that make frightened, grieving people write someone off as dangerous. The very qualities that let him find the truth are the same ones that guarantee nobody believes him once he has it. So here's where everything this video has been building toward actually lands. Jade develops a plan to remove the children's remains from the underground chamber, believing it's the key to ending the cycle for good. It's risky. It requires going into the one place the monsters actually live. And by every historical precedent this show has established, this is exactly the moment a previous Jade would have gone in alone and never come out. He doesn't go alone. Boyd organizes a crew above ground. Jade and Tabitha go down together. And when things go wrong underground, a sabotage rope, a collapsing tunnel, the 2 of them trapped with no clear way out, the town doesn't do what it's always done. Instead of waiting for a body to blame, people climb down into the dark to get him. That has never happened before. Not once, across every documented cycle. This is the first version of Jade in the entire history of this loop who sends out a distress call instead of dying quietly. And the first version where the people above actually answer it. Now, there's a genuinely compelling counter-read here worth taking seriously, and plenty of the show's most engaged fans have been arguing it since the finale aired. Maybe pulling those bones out wasn't salvation. Maybe it was exactly what the town's darkest force wanted all along. The residents dismantling their own protection with their own hands, led by the one person everyone trusted to know better. The show doesn't fully close the door on that read, and honestly it shouldn't. Ambiguity like that is why people are still making videos like this one. But even if the plan turns out to be a mistake, something has already changed that can't be undone. For the first time on record, the man who learned the truth wasn't executed for it. He was rescued. MGM Plus has already confirmed this is heading toward a 5th and final season, and the cast has been fairly open about what that means. David Alpay himself has talked about this current stretch of episodes as the beginning of the end for these characters, which makes everything we just walked through hit differently. Because the machinery that killed every previous Jade hasn't been dismantled, it's just been paused. The talismans are gone, the town has no real protection left, and there are already cracks showing. People turning on each other under pressure, the same fear response that's ended this man's life again and again, threatening to boot back up right on schedule. The real question heading into the final season isn't whether the plan with the bones was right or wrong. It's whether 4 seasons of Jade actually being known, actually being loved by people instead of just tolerated by them, is strong enough to outrun centuries of a town's worst instinct. Nobody knows the answer yet. But here's what the show has already proven, and it's worth sitting with. This town spent lifetimes perfecting a system that turns one man's isolation into his execution. And for the first time, that system jammed. Not because Jade got smarter than his past selves, because he stopped being alone. If you've made it this far, drop your Season 5 prediction in the comments. Do you think the town holds it together, or does history win this one last time? And if this kind of deep dive is your thing, subscribe because we're not done unpacking this show.